All limitation, all challenge, all gaps between where you are now, where you want to be in your life is present in the form of a limiting belief. I get that it might look like a behavior problem or a resource problem, but it's always a belief problem. Behavior just flows out of the factory of our beliefs. So all behavior management change strategies are a waste of time and energy. Sure, they might give you an initial boost of progress, but they can never bring about lasting change. All transformation comes from changed beliefs. Beliefs are what produce behavior. Beliefs are what produce results. So here is how to change beliefs. Firstly, start with a clear idea of what it is that you want in your life. Being clear about the end, the vision, the dream, the goal, the values, the place that you would love to have your life arrive at. That's the reason for this process. It's the reason for the review. It's the true north. It's the reference point. It's the way of testing that you've made any change. If you're not clear about what you want, then how do you know whether something is right or wrong or good or bad in your life? You have no real way to test it. Start with what you want, and then firstly, observe the patterns of behavior that are incongruent with your goals or your values. If you don't know what you want, then how can you tell if it's incongruent? So observe this behavior and observe the patterns. Now, 2 is a pattern. It might look random and coincidental and that it just shows up. But if you're honest, it's shown up more than once. And if it's shown up more than once, then it is part of a structure in your life. It's not random at all. Start with what you want. Be clear about the behavior that's not in line. And now you have a reason to go further into the process to observe beliefs, because it's a bit tricky. You know, if it was easy, everyone would do it. It would be straightforward. This is not complicated, but it's not easy either. Start with what you want, observe incongruent patterns of behavior. Secondly, ask, what must I believe about myself in order to behave this way? So behavior never lies. It is a pure representation of what we believe. People imagine they believe all kinds of really interesting things about themselves, really, really lovely things about themselves. Yet if that were true, the patterns of their behavior would be very different. If you're honest, without judgment, you observe patterns that are incongruent, then you get to understand that these are not in line with what you want. Cool. So what must I believe about myself in order to behave this way? Behavior never lies. Then you can examine that there's some structure. It allows you to keep going further into this process. So number 3 is, now you're clear about what you must believe about yourself, the limiting belief. Where did this come from? That makes sense. You got to realize that there is an origin point. So number 3 is to work your way back to the very first time you decided this was true. You might feel like you've always thought this was true, or this has always been part of your life. That's impossible. If you were to go all the way back, eventually it would be possible to go back before you decided this was true. You started in a place of purity. You started in a place of potential. You started in a place where you hadn't done anything to diminish yourself, or no one had done anything to diminish you. At some point, as you've journeyed forward in the progression of you becoming you, you've decided that something has gone down, and you've decided the reason it went down was because you were no good, or there was some lack or limit with you. It's really important to discover that origin point. You might not be apparent to you now, but if you can narrow the field of possibilities and realize there must be a moment in time where I decided that this was true, and a first moment in time to be exact, then you narrow your field of search. Your reticular activating system knows now what it's looking for, and interesting memories pop up. Memories that it doesn't make sense to have conscious awareness of all the time, because A, they're painful, B, you don't have room to store all that. But if you ask and you know what you're looking for, then these origin moments pop up. Number 4, go back to that point and review all the data. Now, the experience itself is misdirection. You're not that interested in what went down, because you'll think that's where the problem is. You'll think, oh, the reason I have these limiting beliefs is because of what was said to me and what was done to me, or not said to me, not done to me. I believe I'm no good because my dad said that I'm a waste of space. No, that's misdirection. The data that you're interested in reviewing is the storytelling data. You are a sense-making creature. You are answering 2 questions for every experience you have. Question 1, why did this happen? Question 2, and what does it mean about me? That's the only data you are interested in reviewing, because that is the way that you shape this belief. by the meaning you placed on the event. On the defining moment, sure, it happened, but what did you make it mean? Number 5, use your adult skills to give the child who decided in their childish wisdom that that opinion of that experience was true. Give that child more awareness and more choice. Give them the gift of doubt. Help them understand a bigger picture. Help them understand that it wasn't actually about them. Sure, it looked like them. It looked like it was about them in their childish experience of that. But as an adult, you can bring back a bunch of data that that child didn't have access to. You can say, do you know what, child? Sure, I understand that when your dad said that to you, you thought it was about you, but let me show you what was going on for your dad at the time. He had no idea how to be a dad. He was terrified that he would break you. He was terrified that he would let you down. He was horribly unequipped for the role of father. And so out of that fear and insecurity, he said a whole bunch of stuff to detract away from his inhibitions, his fears around this. It was never about you. You couldn't see that at the time. You thought it was totally about you, but let me show you more information, more data. Now, new data makes old data obsolete. When the child can see more information, it's like, oh, yeah, you're right. I'd never known that before. Now I can see that. That does change things. So all we have is story, right? That we're all just sense-making creatures making up stories. So the next thing is to decide on a new and improved story. Sure, the thing happened. You decided the reason it happened was because about you. You wrote a story about that and reinforced that story. Now, what alternate story would you like to choose? Pick a better meaning. Pick an alternate narrative. Change the opinion about why this happened and what does it mean about you. Change the answers to the 2 sense-making questions. Doesn't matter whether it's true or not true. That's not what you're looking for. You're just looking for something more aligned to the life that you want. What story is more likely to get you more of what you want? Because that's where we started. That's the whole reason for this review. That's the point of this process. You have current beliefs that are in the way of what you want. What beliefs would you need to have that are aligned with what you want? So once you've chosen on the new map of meaning, the new story, your final piece is just to reinforce that new story until it's the default. And that takes less time and energy than you might imagine. All we're looking for is some certainty. So initially, the child decided it was true and then went and found some more evidence to bolster that opinion and then locked in certainty. It clicked inside to say, this is not just an opinion, this is correct. I am right. The moment the child had certainty about being right, it became a belief, and the belief became a self-fulfilling prophecy, filtering in all future experiences through that map. Exactly the same thing happens when you're trying to create a new story. You first decided on an opinion. You go find some evidence that you think, yeah, that opinion works. Then you reinforce it until there's some certainty around that. You give yourself certainty that this is right for you. Then you lock it in as a belief. Then it becomes your map. Then it becomes the filter for all future experiences. So the best model for doing that is the story state strategy model. Begin your day aligning yourself to this new and beautiful and compelling story, then go prime your state, and then go do work out of that place of being. If you just go straight to work, then it's likely you'll operate out of the old default story. So I think 3 or 4 weeks is all the time that it takes to live story state strategy, reinforce that new belief until it becomes the default. And then you've raised the watermark, and then you have aligned yourself with a narrative that is able to get you the life that you desire. That's how it's done, folks. Hope that's useful.